Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Ariyassa atthangikassa maggassa adhivacanang brahmayanang itipi dhammayanang itipi anuttaro sangama vijayo itipi iti. Dear venerable brother, dear Dhamma friends, actually today we hope to discuss primarily on the Noble Eightfold Path. So basically that is the main topic today. But anyway, I thought of little reminding what we have discussed already. So we discussed about the First Noble Truth, and there we understood that we need to have a kind of a theoretical understanding first of all about the First Noble Truth, and then we have something called the comprehending or fully understanding that part, and that has to be done through practical aspect as well. And then we probably understood the whole spectrum of the dukkha or the suffering. So that is very much the in essence that we need to do in the First Noble Truth. Then the Second Noble Truth, Buddha mentioned, again kind of a theoretical understanding is there, and again we need to understand this Second Noble Truth, that is the craving, and there the task in our hand is to abandon or pahatabbang, the abandoning of the craving. And once it is done, then it's a matter of recognizing, okay, the mind is free from these cravings, tanha. And then in the Third Noble Truth, that again Buddha mentioned about kind of a theoretical information, kind of a definition of the Third Noble Truth, that is the pariyatti part, the theoretical part, and then we have what we call the realization part, saccikatabbam, that is particularly for the Nibbana, the Third Noble Truth Buddha emphasized. And then actually we know, okay, we have realized the Third Noble Truth. And in the fourth part, that is what we hope to discuss today, that is again kind of a theoretical understanding of the Fourth Noble Truth, that is the Noble Eightfold Path. And there is something to be developed. The Noble Eightfold Path has to be developed. So that is speciality in the Fourth Noble Truth, where we have some practical aspect that is to be developed. And once it is developed, okay, one would know, okay, it has been developed. Now, before directly getting into these Noble Eightfold Path, so if I recall about the practice, so basically we started with recognizing satipatthana, the establishment of mindfulness. So one can establish mindfulness in the body, one can establish mindfulness in feelings, and again various mental factors, various consciousness. So likewise there's a vast area where one can establish mindfulness. So that establishing mindfulness is what Buddha emphasized as the satipatthana, where one establish mindfulness. So there is a fair area, say bodily area, kayanupassana, using which actually one can establish mindfulness, because the mind is distracted and mind is fairly scattered. So it's a matter of collecting the mind. So in order to facilitate that process, one can use various bodily parts, bodily processes like breathing and posture and element characteristics. All these different areas one can use to establish mindfulness. And again one can use various feelings also to establish mindfulness. And even various thoughts. If one is capable, one can look, step back and look, and then establish mindfulness. So here we understand, so this is the first stage where Buddha mentioned in the Vibhanga Sutta, the establishing of mindfulness. So now assume that one has very well capable of establishing mindfulness. One's mind is not wavering and it is not continuing with kind of conceptual proliferation. Rather, one is capable of establishing mindfulness either in the body, in the feelings, or in the mind. Now, the second stage Buddha will emphasize, that is the Satipatthana Bhavana, where one needs to develop this establishment of mindfulness to another level using the clear comprehension. Say you are precisely recognizing different phenomena. It could be bodily phenomena, it could be feelings, it could be thoughts, but you are capable of now understanding them distinctly. And as a result of that, one may be able to understand how they are arising, how they are changing, how they are passing away. So all these different meditative aspects is explained as the Satipatthana Bhavana, where particularly the arising side as well as the passing away side of all these different phenomena are explained. So this is the second stage, we can say. Now this whole area actually we can say very much related to the First Noble Truth, and we are operating on that area. But anyway, there's a fair amount of development happens onto the other Noble Truths as well. We are not very much taking First Noble Truth alone and developing, understanding, but as we are understanding the First Noble Truth, so it actually helps to understand or somewhat abandons the Second Noble Truth, and to understand to some extent the Third Noble Truth, and again to develop the Fourth Noble Truth. Now that is the last part where Buddha emphasized as the Fourth Noble Truth, where Satipatthana Bhavana Gaminincha Patipada. So now one is developing mindfulness and one is capable of establishing mindfulness. At the same time understanding the whole process as a meditative process. And there is another third component, that is the some kind of another comprehensive path to develop. So why we need this kind of a comprehensive path? So can't we simply satisfy with the establishment of mindfulness? Or can't we simply satisfy with the establishment of mindfulness plus say the understanding it as a kind of a meditative process? Why we need a Noble Eightfold Path? So this is something interesting that we can ask ourselves. So let's take an example. Now suppose one is developing Vedananupassana. One is capable of understanding say pleasurable feelings, one is capable of understanding painful feelings, and again one is capable of understanding various neutral feelings as well. And one may be able to establish mindfulness there. So that means establishment has now successful. Now it is mind is not wandering, not ruminating, and fairly mind has well established on feelings. Now different feelings are happening. And suppose rather than being overwhelmed by the pleasurable feelings or being sort of frustrated by the painful feelings and ignored by the being ignorant onto the neutral feelings, one is capable of properly looking at them. Now objectively one is capable of looking at them. Now what has happened? So previously actually without being a meditator, without knowing much about the practice, so we actually enjoyed various pleasurable feelings. As a result of that, various other say mental patterns we can say, or wrong mental attitudes, habits, unknowingly we have grown. And similarly, while going through various painful feelings, we were crying, lamenting, worrying. So as a result of that, certain other wrong mental patterns also have grown. And we were completely ignorant about the neutral feelings. But now we are capable of looking at them objectively. So we are well established. We have established mindfulness. Now we can step back. We can maintain kind of a distance. And as a result of that, now I am objectively looking at these different feelings. They are merely feelings now. At various places they may be arising, but now you are capable of understanding they are as feelings. Now this is another, we can say, another level of understanding. Now as we move forward, suppose one is capable of understanding even subtle level. It is not a single feeling, it is a collection of minute feelings. And each minute feeling is very transient, and it is common to pleasurable feelings, it is common to painful feeling, as well as to the neutral feelings as well. Now one is capable of understanding the very, say, precise nature of each minute feeling. So now you can't even understand whether it is a pleasurable, painful or equanimous, because you understand how quickly they are arising and passing away. And now they are at another level. So very much in a sharp edge of the second area, one is developing the Satipatthana as a meditation. So one's understanding about these conditioned phenomena is now growing. Various Vipassana knowledges may be sort of growing in one's mind. Now one is capable of maintaining kind of a detached attitude. Even when pleasurable feelings are there, now one is not going to involve with them, attach with them, grasping them. Rather, one is maintaining very kind of a detached mindset and sort of investigating further about these pleasurable feelings. Similarly, suppose one is understanding painful feelings, rather than being worried by them and identifying by them, one is capable of detached with them and understanding what they are. Similarly with the neutral feelings. So various neutral feelings are arising, one is fully aware of them and understand how transient they are as well. Now this very understanding is capable of further and further develop kind of a dispassion in our mind. Now you can see, so as we are continuing this process, we are touching various areas of the Four Noble Truths. So when we understand different categories of feelings, that is where we understand to some extent about the First Noble Truth, where Buddha mentioned, okay, you got to comprehend the First Noble Truth. So we discussed in the previous day, the very first day. So First Noble Truth, Dukkha, is a synonym for these 5 clinging aggregates. So I am taking an example to the second aggregate, Vedana, feelings. So when we are having a thorough understanding about various feelings, so that means we are somewhat continuing or completing the comprehending part of the First Noble Truth. And more one understands that part. If dispassion arises, now suppose when there are pleasurable feelings, if one is not grasping them, one is not desiring them, but rather one is capable of observing them with a detached mind, without being carried away by these pleasurable feelings, not being elated by these pleasurable feelings, but looking at them objectively, indicates, okay, one's mind has developed to some extent some amount of dispassion. So that means the abandoning of the tanha, craving, which is the requirement or the practice in the Second Noble Truth, to some extent have developed. And time to time, now assume one is slowly recognizing a situation of the mind where no grasping at all happens. And there are various feelings, but mind is capable of not attached with any of them. There may be pleasurable feelings, but mind is not involved with them. There may be painful feelings, mind is not involved with them. There may be, say, neutral feelings, mind is not involved with them. So mind is finding or recognizing its own kind of a seclusion. At the same time, the dispassion is also there. So as a result of that, so mind is capable of maintaining kind of a seclusion where no association with anything, no grasping to anything. So remember, I am just taking one example with respect to feelings, but the similar approach is there if you are taking Kayanupassana in the bodily phenomena, and again the mental phenomena in the Chittanupassana or Dhammanupassana. Now, if this scenario, if we further explain, there may be a situation where mind let go of all these conditioned phenomena and may become kind of unconditioned or not grasping, not associating any conditioned phenomena. Where mind get into a kind of a area where nothing is there, nothing is grasping, kind of an emptiness in the mind, and not taking any sign to the mind. Kind of it becomes kind of a signless, and it becomes kind of objectless. Now, if one is clever and heard the Buddha's teaching, okay, one is capable of understanding this situation, and again as a result of the practice one reaches this stage. Now it makes a kind of a significant change in one's mind, in the sense that so far we were sort of analyzing or investigating various conditioned phenomena, but now nothing is there to look at. There is complete emptiness, complete signless state in the mind. And one, if clever, as I mentioned, if one is understood, if one has heard the Buddha's teaching, suppose one is now slowly establishing this area, non-grasping, non-associating, frictionless, tension-free, stress-free, fairly spacious kind of a experience. Suppose now one got the kind of an instruction, okay, you got to sort of consolidate this state. So now one is developing. Now problem arise, even though this is kind of a pure state of mind, we can say, a defilement-free state of mind or undefiled mind, but unfortunately we can't maintain it. Again and again, so probably as a result of the practice, one may reach this state, but we can't maintain, because again mind go and grasp. Again mind go and do some kind of a conceptual proliferation. Again mind go and entangle with something. Again mind go and remember something happened in the past. Again there may be certain hiccups in the sila, and there may be worries, kind of regrets. And there may be still kind of anticipation. So likewise, one may understand, okay, I can't, even though momentarily, even though for a shorter while, I am capable of keeping the mind free, unattached, but I am not yet complete in this whole practice. I am yet to be further develop this path. Now I need a full comprehensive path to fully consolidate this kind of a purity in the mind. So this is where we can understand the need of the Noble Eightfold Path. So you need a fully comprehensive, fully capable path, so that your mind is capable of maintaining in that pure state, undefiled state for a longer period of time. Now that is where Buddha emphasized Ariyassa Atthangikassa Maggassa Adivachanam Brahmayanang itipi Dhammayanang itipi Anuttaro Sanggama Vijayo itipi. Now Buddha give various similes, metaphors to the Noble Eightfold Path, so powerful. It is very much like a vehicle, where kind of a divine vehicle. It is a kind of a unsurpassed warrior vehicle one can use to overcome various defilements. Now here in this fourth Noble Truth, Noble Eightfold Path, as I mentioned, there are again three components. The first component is very much the theoretical part, where it consists of 8 components. And then there is something that practically we need to implement, so that is the development path. And once it is developed, okay, one would understand, okay, to some extent I have developed, another level I have developed, or I have fully developed. So again we know that the Noble Eightfold Path is broadly divided into 3 groups or 3 parts, where Sila Sikha, the restrainment in the morality or the moral training, and then the Samadhi Sikha, the concentration training, and again the Panya Sikha, the wisdom training. Now if we look at the Sila Sikha, so it consists of 3 components: Samma Vacha, Samma Kammanta, Samma Ajiva, the correct or right speech, and then right work or right action, and the right livelihood. Now these three components, each one has two aspects. Actually the mundane aspect as well as the supramundane aspect. Say for example in the Samma Vacha, it has kind of a mundane aspect. It also has some kind of a supramundane aspect as well. Similarly Samma Kammanta, the right action, also has mundane aspects, also has supramundane aspect. Samma Ajiva also has mundane aspect, it also has supramundane aspect. Let me explain, just taking one example. In the Samma Vacha, so one understands, okay, what is Miccha Vacha, what is wrong speech, so that we all are familiar with this area. So if one is lying, if one is using some divisive speech, if one is slandering, if one is using useless chatter, so that is the area we understand as the Miccha Vacha, the wrong speech. But on the other hand, if one is trying to restrain one's speech, one is not lying, one is fully truthful. So one is not using any divisive speech, instead one is trying to unite people. So one is not involved with any kind of slandering or harsh speech. One's mind is one's speech is quite soft, so that another person is quite pleasing to hear. And again, one's words are very, worth to listen, and there is kind of a deep message in them. So it is not kind of idle chattering. So likewise, so we can understand there is a correct path or the right speech as well. Now, so if one is capable of developing this right speech, so Buddha mentioned more and more if one is developing, so it is actually capable of slowly abandoning even lust, capable of slowly abandoning greed, hatred, delusion. Samma Vacha Ananda Bhavita Bahuli Kata Raga Vinaya Pariyosana Hoti, Dosa Vinaya Pariyosana Hoti, Moha Vinaya Pariyosana Hoti. So the fulfillment of the right speech has a kind of a capacity to slowly abandon the lust, slowly abandon hatred, slowly abandon the delusion. So that kind of a path is also mentioned. Particularly when one is now capable of maintaining one's speech in the right side. So there are also sometimes Buddha mention what are the proper speech, what are the subjects that we need to start or what we need to speak. So Buddha particularly emphasize, okay, you don't involve idle chattering, don't take these different 32 types of useless topics, but you better talk about the path, you better talk about the virtues, you better talk about the concentration, you better talk about the wisdom, you better talk about the starting of the practice. So likewise, Buddha also defines more beneficial types of talks, or we can say the various kinds of topics. So likewise, one is now careful how one is using one's speech. As a result of that, now it's a matter of slowly abandoning hatred, slowly abandoning greed, slowly abandoning delusion. So one's speech is now fairly attuned towards the clarity of the mind. So one's mind is capable of maintaining, as I mentioned, kind of a non-grasping state. And now while being there, one is capable of maintaining proper speech. So that is where Buddha mentioned Samma Vacha, where the second type, Ariya Anasava Lokuttara Magganga. So one is very careful about one's speech now. So what are the words one is using? What are the meanings one is trying to talk? So very, very kind of scrupulous about one's speech, where Buddha emphasized that, telling Yako bhikkave ariya chittassa anasava chittassa arati virati pativirati veramani. So very sort of emphasizing is there. So when one is trying to develop the right speech in the supramundane level, so Buddha mentioned, so that person, so that noble person is very careful how he is talking. Arati, virati, pativirati, veramani. So kind of a weight is given to each these different terms. It's not only abstainment, but again how one is developing the positive aspect. So not only avoiding false speech, but using the true speech and maintaining that again to a very high level. And again abstaining from all different possibilities of the other parts, other wrong speech. So likewise kind of a refinement is emphasized when one is coming to the supramundane side. So this kind of approach is common to other two parts as well, that is Samma Kammanta, Samma Ajiva, the right conduct or right action as well as the right livelihood. So I'm not going to talk in detail about these two parts. So these are quite familiar, where Samma Kammanta is where the right actions, where you are abstaining from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct. And again the right livelihood, where you are abstaining from wrong livelihood. But as I mentioned, so there also kind of a refinement is there when one is approaching the level of the supramundane side. Now this is very much in brief what we are trying to do in the Sila Sikha, where one is maintaining good Sila, maintaining good morality. So there are no regrets in the mind. So one benefit of maintaining good Sila is that there are no regrets, there is no remorse. Your mind may not accuse you, because as you know, when you are trying to meditate, so if your mind is accusing you, if there are various sort of regrets about yourself, what you have done or what the mistakes that you have done, so then it is quite difficult for you to continue a practice. And again Buddha mentioned Dussilasya bhikkave sila vipannasya hatupanisaṁ hoti samma samadhi. So you can't get into the next section if you are not having proper sila. So kind of a prerequisite to develop the Samma Samadhi. Maintaining proper sila is in a way is something that we need to pay attention. Now if we talk about now into the Samadhi Sikha, the concentration training, so that again contains three components: Samma Vayama, Samma Sati, Samma Samadhi. Actually, I forgot to mention in the previous section also, there are three components actually helping, particularly in the supramundane side. That is where the Sammaditthi, Samma Vayama and Samma Sati. So they are actually very much like kind of a group effort. It is not that you are individually developing Samma Vacha, but Samma Ditthi giving the proper direction. So it gives you kind of an understanding, okay, these are the wrong speech. So you are very well aware, okay, what is wrong speech. So that understanding, that proper view, proper direction is given by Sammaditthi. So again it will define, okay, what is the correct speech. So you are having kind of an understanding. The wisdom aspect is coming from the Sammaditthi. And again Samma Sati, where you are being mindful of what you are speaking, how you are speaking, and how others would understand that, or how others would feel. So you are quite capable of maintaining fair amount of mindfulness. So that is the contribution coming from Samma Sati. And Samma Vayama, that is where contributing, okay, you always have kind of an effort, okay, mindfulness telling you, okay, this is the way to speak, this is the correct speech. And you know what is correct speech coming from the understanding of Sammaditthi. Now you are constantly maintaining kind of an effort to avoid wrong speech and to maintain the right speech. So therefore Buddha mentioned in that Mahachattarisaka Sutta in Majjhima Nikaya, where so Samma Vacha is one now is developing not as a independent component, rather it's a kind of a collective effort coming from, kind of a support coming from Sammaditthi, right view, Samma Sati, right mindfulness, and Samma Vayama, right effort. So this support is again available in the Samadhi Sikha as well, where Samma Vayama, Samma Sati, Samma Samadhi are the components. So when you are developing Samma Vayama, right effort, so some component or some support is coming from Samma Ditthiya as well. And when you are developing Samma Sati, again some component is coming from Samma Ditthiya as well. When you are developing Samma Samadhi, again kind of a help coming from Samma Ditthi as well. So Samma Ditthi Puppangama. So therefore Buddha emphasized, okay, Samma Ditthi as a kind of a forerunner, showing us the direction, proper direction, is always kind of leading us, the lead in the path. Now, here also, Samma Vayama, I take that component as an example in this area. So, Samma Vayama basically has 4 components. Actually, avoiding very much the unwholesome side and developing the wholesome side, in brief. So, the avoiding of the unwholesome side, basically one understand if in case at the moment there are no defilements in one's mind, so one is having kind of a desire to avoid any new defilements being arising in one's mind. Anuppannānaṁ pāpakānaṁ akusalānaṁ dhammānaṁ anuppādāya. So when there are no defilements available in the mind, unwholesome states available in the mind, so one now has a kind of a desire, okay, let me keep my mind free from defilements. Already it is now free. Let's avoid those defilements being arising in the mind. So for that, one is having kind of an effort. Chandan janeti vayamati viryang arabati chittam pagganhati padahati. So one has a desire for that, and one is maintaining kind of an effort for that. One has aroused energy for that, and one firmly maintaining that sort of an attitude, so that one's mind is free from defilements, and that period or that interval one is enhancing. The second part is, so in case due to some reason, due to kind of a say mistake, suppose now a defilement has arisen in the mind, there Buddha mentioned uppannānaṁ pāpakānaṁ akusalānaṁ dhammānaṁ pahanāya. So now there are, you notice certain defilements are available, now you got to abandon them. For that you are now having kind of an effort, maintaining kind of a relentless effort to abandon those defilements. So this is actually to the side of the unwholesome side. But to the wholesome side also there are 2 components, where Buddha mentioned anuppannānaṁ kusalānaṁ dhammānaṁ uppādāya chandan janeti vāyamati viryang ārabati chittam pagganhāti padahati. Where you understand, okay, these are the skills I need to develop, these are the qualities I need to develop. For that you are maintaining kind of an effort now. So you are starting kind of a practice, you are developing that, so you are continuing that. So likewise there is a effort you need to develop these wholesome qualities as well. And interestingly, the 4th part is where you are trying to retain those developed qualities. Suppose you are developing mindfulness. So you understand, okay, some amount of mindfulness is now available. Let me maintain that. Let me retain that mindfulness without letting it fade off. Let me maintain that. So you got to have this kind of effort in order to protect what you have earned, in order to protect what you have developed. Where Buddha mentioned uppannānaṁ kusalānaṁ dhammānaṁ tithiya asammosāya bhiyo bhavāya vepullāya bhavanāya pāripūrya. So that means whatever the wholesome states that you have developed, and you are now trying to retain them, and you are now trying to further develop them, you are now trying to make them abundant and to make it complete. So further you have to develop. So that means another level of effort is there. So likewise Buddha mentioned 4 types of effort as the Samma Vayama. And Samma Sati, of course, is about the what we call this four foundations of mindfulness. And Samma Samadhi, that's another interesting area. So what is Samma Samadhi? So sometimes actually in suttas we understand, okay, Samma Samadhi is defined as the four jhanas. But on the other hand, there are certain other suttas where Buddha mentioned Samma Samadhi as very much kind of collectedness of the mind, clarity of the mind, and kind of a samadhi, particularly emphasizing the vipassana, where you are capable of abandoning asavas, abandoning fetters, abandoning influxes. And again, Samma Samadhi helping to penetrate, see things as they truly are. So that means another aspect of Samadhi is mentioned. It is not just being in a particular absorption, rather one is skillfully using what is developed. The concentration, the collectedness of the mind one has developed is now using as a tool to further penetrate or to develop vipassana or to develop wisdom using the developed concentration. So therefore it is not merely being absorbed in a deep concentration, rather using concentration as a way of, as a tool to develop wisdom. So that we can say various areas in that sense we can understand in the Samma Samadhi. Now if we get into Panya Sikha, that is the wisdom component, wisdom training. So there are actually another two components are there, Samma Ditti, Samma Sankappa. So Samma Ditti again has two sides. That is Sasava Punya Bhagya Upadivepakka. Again Anasava, Ariya, Anasava, Lokuttara, Magganga. So that means mundane side as well as the supramundane side. Similarly in the Samma Sankappa also two sides. Mundane side as well as supramundane side. So just to explain, say the mundane side of Samma Ditti, where Buddha mentioned, okay, one believes in the karma. So you understand, okay, if I do something good, I may reap good results. If I do something bad, okay, I may receive bad results. So likewise, you are very much established in the karma or established in the wholesome side. You being a sappurisa, you being a good person. And you are well sort of developing yourself in more ethical platform. So that is where the mundane side of Samma Ditti. But still you being a person. So okay, I am a good person now. I was a bad person. I was neglectful about my say sila. But now I am a good person. Now I am trying to develop sila. Now I am trying to develop concentration. So likewise, you being a good person. You being a good person, you are doing good deeds. Bodily, mental, verbal. So that is also necessary. So that is the first aspect Buddha mentioned in the Samma Ditti. Now rather than keeping us there, so Buddha talks about the supramundane side of Samma Ditti as well. Ariya, Anasava, Lokuttara, Magganga. Where it is noble, it is free from fetters, and it is supramundane, and it becomes a path factor. So that is another very interesting area. I don't know, I have enough time. Hope let me continue to some extent. So there Buddha mentioned how our mind is trapped in various kinds of views. So we look at the world in more dualistic manner. So there is something, there is no something. Or this is good, this is bad. This is black, this is white. Or this is auspicious, this is completely kind of something to abandon. So likewise, how our minds operate typically is very much like into kind of jumping from one extreme to the other extreme. Very much like a dualistic kind of thinking is what we are more very much conditioned into our minds. And again, more grasping, more holding, adhering, claiming, possessing. So these kinds of attributes are there in our mind. So there Buddha mentioned, okay, without getting to any extreme, okay, I am teaching what we call as the Paticcasamuppada. The condition, what we can call as the dependent origination or dependent co-arising, different terms we can use. So without getting to any extreme, if there is ignorance, okay, there are various formations. If there are formations, then there are kind of established consciousness. When such is available, okay, various name and form, then various say 6 kind of sense bases. So likewise Buddha teach the what we call as the teaching of Paticcasamuppada without getting to any of these conditions, these extremes. So when something is available, then there is a result. If it is not available, then there is no result. So likewise, with abandoning these two extremes, dualistic thinking, here Buddha comes up with another definition, or we can say another teaching. If this exists, that going to exist. With the arising of this, that also arising. If this does not exist, that can't exist. With the cessation of this, that starts ceasing. So likewise, Buddha talks into this Sammaditthi in a more into the supramundane side. So where one is abandoning the self-view, abandoning making a self, abandoning the individuality. So one understand, okay, when ignorance is there, mind creates a self. Mind prepares a self. Mind does kind of an identification. But if there is no ignorance, so there is no such identification. Mind is capable of maintaining kind of a seclusion or kind of a freedom, no grasping. So such kind of an understanding. So there Buddha mentioned particularly to Kaccanagutta, in Kaccanagutta Sutta, where complete abandoning, complete releasing, non-grasping, if such is possible, okay, this is the kind of Sammaditthi I am teaching. So where non-grasping is emphasized, letting go is emphasized, relinquishment is emphasized, and maintaining kind of a freed mind is emphasized. So into the supramundane aspect of Sammaditthi, therefore fair depth, where Buddha doesn't allow us to grasp anything. And in the Samma Sankappa side, so the proper thinking, right thinking, not involved with the kind of sensual desires, sensual thoughts, not involved with any kind of ill will. So likewise, what are the thoughts that one need to develop? What to think? So that is also somewhat some explanation is given. So likewise, so this Sammaditthi and Samma Sankappa comprises the Panya or the wisdom aspect of the Noble Eightfold Path, and that actually gives some account of these 3 trainings: Sila Sikha, Samadhi Sikha and Panya Sikha. And probably we can further discuss during our discussion. If you have certain doubts, actually I have tried to summarize this whole thing because each component requires some explanation. But I tried to summarize the Noble Eightfold Path. And as you can understand, so if one is maintaining proper Sila, if one has one's clarity of mind, and again developing further wisdom, then that makes us capable of maintaining kind of a clear mind, uninvolved mind, unentangled mind, unattached mind, kind of a spacious mind, relaxed mind, no stress and no eye making, no mind making. So that means, as I mentioned in the early stage, at the beginning of my talk, we are just developing Satipatthana as a meditation is not enough. Now one is incorporating these three parts, Sila Sikha, Samadhi Sikha, Panya Sikha, into the path. So as a kind of a collaboration of all these, helping one to further and further establish in one's purity, purifying one's mind, and maintaining that purity, maintaining that non-grasping state of mind. And sometimes taking the kind of support from Sila, sometimes taking the support from the Samadhi, sometimes taking the support from the Panya. So likewise, a kind of a collaboration of these three components, kind of a supportive action of these three components, helps one to maintain more and more pure mind, more and more clear mind, more and more non-grasping state of mind. So one is now slowly establishing in such kind of a, we can say, a more proper state of mind, non-grasping state of mind, unattached state of mind, unassociative state of mind, or unestablished state of mind. So we can call it differently. So likewise, so the Noble Eightfold Path, as one is developing further and further, so that indicates, okay, one's mind is getting purified. More and more defilements are abandoned, and one's mind become more and more cleansed. So that is why we can say, so each component, therefore, Buddha highlights, if one develops, say even Samma Vacha, as I explained previously, if one develops Samma Vacha, Raga Vinaya Pariyosana hoti, Dosa Vinaya Pariyosana hoti, Moha Vinaya Pariyosana hoti. So that statement is common to each and every component. Buddha reiterates that component, that purification part, to each and every component. So that means, so all these parts are sort of working together, and if we are developing each one, so it's further and further abandons defilements, purifying one's mind. So with that note, I like to conclude today's Dhamma sermon. Now I like to open the session for questions.
Thank you very much, Venerable Sir. Let us invite questions from the audience. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask the questions directly or through the chat box so that we can read out the questions for the Venerable. Until you are ready for questions, maybe I can raise a question for the Venerable.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a question directly related to what Bhante has already explained. I think it's very clear that Bhante has made it as simple as possible so that we all can grasp what the Bhante has explained. Just to raise these questions for, I think, because so many are interested in knowing when they practice meditation, Satipatthana, etc., they are interested in knowing what is Ajjattang and what is Bahiddhava very much. Because Ajjattang va kaya kaya anupasiviyarati, Bahiddhava kaya kaya anupasiviyarati, we find very clearly mentioned in the Satipatthana Sutta, but explanations are not given in that context alone, what the Ajjatta and what the Bahiddha are. So if Venerable can elaborate to a certain degree on these for the benefit of the listeners, I think it will be quite useful. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Doctor, for that question. So basically, suppose now we are practicing Anapanasati. Say, take an example. Now you are looking at in-breath and you are looking at out-breath. So at that level, so what is your primary focus become what is Ajjatta, what is more, what you can say as the primary object, and everything else we can call as Bahiddha, as the external. So what is under your focus becomes internal, and away from your focus, outside your focus, become external. So this is one explanation actually. But another explanation is more valid. So that is where, as you develop mindfulness practice, so as you develop Satipatthana, first of all, we are taking oneself as one's own laboratory, we can say. Say you are using yourself, your body, your feelings, your thoughts. So this is very much like your area of investigation. So more you investigate this, your own, I am just using the terms your own, but as you know, I mean, in the Dhamma, it's not yours, not ours, but anyway, just for our easy communication, if I am talking, so when we are sort of investigating our own body phenomena, feelings, thoughts, so we develop some amount of understanding. So that understanding is not kind of unique to us. So that understanding is kind of a universal understanding where you can apply that to the others as well. So when you are developing any kind of satipatthana, so you are understanding what you are gaining through this practice is therefore you can inferentially apply to external person as well. Suppose you are practicing anapanasati and you gain some kind of an understanding. So that understanding, even though you derive from your own type of body, breathing, but that understanding you can apply to another person's breathing as well. So he also may go through the same kind of a situation. So that part, external side, also has the same kind of a situation. So therefore, so this ajjata bahinda we can define in two ways. One is where under your scrutiny, under your focus, that we can consider as internal, and everything else we can consider as external. But on the other hand, develop insights using your own kind of components, we can say as the internal. But again, when we are applying it to the outside world, another person, so that we can consider as external, because the knowledge that we gain is not unique to us, but it's a kind of applicable to others as well. So these both the explanations are there. I think both are valid.
Thank you very much, Venerable. There are some questions from the audience now coming.
Right.
May I read the questions?
Sure. Yes, please. Yes, please.
Chat box. Why was it necessary for the Lord Buddha to recite Bojjhanga Sutta to Arahants?
Mm-hmm.
This is a question from one.
Yeah. So interesting, very interesting question. So I think even though one is an arahant, so the body is still kind of a conditioned phenomena. So body is going through various illnesses, diseases, and all kind of shortcomings are inherent to the body. And the body conditions to some extent the mind as well. So when assume that you can't eat for several days, then your mind also kind of lethargic and it can't function well. So there's a significant impact coming from the bodily energy towards the operation of the mind. So I feel that when even an arahant is sick, so the body is not properly functioning, body is basically sick and it is in a kind of a diseased state. So as a result of that, the mind is also not operating to the full capacity where we expect to the level of an arahant. So at such occasion, when Buddha is explaining or preaching about Bojjhanga, so where an arahant has fully developed in a previous occasion to their very prime level, now slowly he is recalling them, slowly he is assume, this is my kind of an explanation. I think this is sometimes some others are also telling. So as one is recalling, as one is further establishing one's mind into these Bojjhangas, so that means one's mind is further brightening, further and further kind of releasing, further and further coming to what we particularly call as the passaddhi, we are tranquilizing. So when the mind is coming to that very prime, tranquilized, freed kind of state, then that has a kind of a healing effect to the body as well. So previously, body is incapable, body is sort of ill, body is sick. As a result of the mind also has an impact due to that sick body. But now after hearing the Bojjhangas, now mentally one is uplifting one's skills and developing the tranquility, developing the freedom, developing the unconditioned state of mind. So that may have a kind of a positive impact towards the body, maybe a kind of a healing effect may be there. So this is something I think what is happening. So why Buddha may have preached Bojjhangas even to himself, even to others. So it has a kind of a healing effect.
Thank you, Bhante. And there is another question. Bhante mentioned developing a mind free from clinging, a non-duality mind. Is that the same as developing an equanimous mind from attaining the fourth jhana and seeing phenomena as conditioned existence in line with Paticcasamuppada?
No, actually, I feel it may be different because attaining fourth jhana is kind of an absorption level where your mind is conditioned still. Where, when one is in the fourth jhana, so certain kind of feelings are there, particularly the equanimity is so strong. So mind being fair, mind is having a fair influence of that very concentrated equanimity available or coming through the concentrated mind, available in the fourth jhana. But here in the non-grasping state of mind, we typically talk in the vipassana, it is not really that. That is actually happening because of the understanding. It is not the equanimity happens through concentrated, highly concentrated state of mind. Rather, one becomes equanimous to these different phenomena because one understands there is no being there, there is no person there, there is no essence there. There is no soul there, there is no self there. So as a result of that, kind of a dispassion has arisen in one's mind and one is not grasping now. So this is where the wisdom is emphasized in the vipassana path, where as a result of the wisdom, as a result of the insights available in the mind, now mind is maintaining kind of an equanimity. It is different from the equanimity one is having because of the fourth absorption.
Thank you, Bhante. There aren't any more questions mentioned, but let me ask Bhante, for the sake of everybody, to explain a little bit of what is going on in Nissarana in general and how vast. Some people might not have been to Nissarana yet.
Right.
I myself have been there, of course, I know. But Venerable can just, explain what is going on there and how large is the center and how many monks are living there and how many lay practitioners are living there.
So you are asking me to put an advertisement kind of thing? Yes. Yes. So basically, actually, it is situated in Gampaha district, as you all know. Closer to Pugoda or Kirindewala, and currently about 35 monks are there, and we have around 30 odd kutis, and separately we have a meditation hall, that is where the retreats are conducted. Separate retreat center is now available, and actually this is a forest reservation, belongs to the forest department, and they actually have allowed us only 28 acres. So if we consider the area, it's only 28 acres. So the retreat center what we have is capable of occupying around 90 odd yogis. So even now there's a current retreat going on, particularly for nuns. Over 60 nuns are residing and they are participating to a 8 days or rather 9 days retreat. So throughout the year there are retreats conducted, and they are fully actually very interesting. As you know, you can see we are giving more emphasis to Satipatthana practice, and not unique or not only to Kayanupassana, but Kayanupassana, Vedananupassana, Chittanupassana, Dhammanupassana. So the all four Satipatthanas are very much emphasized, developed. And that is very much so. There are good demand to participating into retreats, and Bhante Dhammajiva, who is the abbot who is currently in Australia conducting some overseas retreats. And so that's about it. And actually, I like to mention something about the Satipasala as well. That is what Bhante Dhammajiva started for students, children, and now it is also gaining some momentum. And the education department has announced that they are going to implement that program for all the schools starting from January. So those are the kind of developments happening at Nissarana.
Thank you very much, Bhante.
Yeah.
I personally needed that details for my own understanding. Thank you very much indeed.
Right.
And there is a question, somebody has raised a hand, Dil A. I don't know the whole name, but please introduce yourself and ask the question. You can unmute, yes, please.
Can you hear me, Bhante?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you for the very insightful discussion today, particularly about mundane and sutra mundane in relation to the Sila Samadhi and Panna. Bhante, I think it was on the 4th day, there was a monk, I'm not quite sure of his name, but he's, I think, a visiting professor in one of our universities here in London. I'm speaking from London. And he was mentioning a point which, for me, was the first time I had heard, but you referred to it. So I was really interested, and I just like you to see whether what he said was the same thing as what you were saying, or whether it's slightly different. So the question was, he posed the question to the audience, and this was at the London Buddhist Vihara on the 4-day celebrations, and the Sri Lankan monk. And he posed and said, so what do you think is Madhyama Pratipada, and everybody said middle path and Pidivata, and so he wanted us to say, that to avoid the two extremes what you mentioned. But at the end we were all saying it's kind of, not I, but people who were live face to face. I was on Zoom. And then he said, no, actually, that when he went through all, and he referred to a lot of suttas that I wasn't quite familiar about, and other writings of the book, which were original writings that was there in the Tripitaka. And he mentioned that actually this word has been misinterpreted when it came from Pali to Sinhalese. People thought that this Madhyama was middle, but he was saying actually Madhyama means central. And the central to the teaching is not to be in these two extremes. More so what you also mentioned, that it is that the central to everything is causality. The fact that everything was dependent, either dependent origination or codependent arising, but that was what was central. So actually people thought that this Madhyama was middle and extremes, but actually that the word is central, meaning the central to the Buddha's teaching is the causality, which I think is what you mentioned as well, and that was the first time that we had thought of it like that. But actually when he said, it made a whole lot of insights to us. That is what it's all about. Is that what you are referring to as well, Bhante?
Yeah, interesting question. So actually I like to consider both here. Now we know that in the what we know that in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, where Buddha abandoned two extremes, where the self-mortification as well as the more indulgence in the sensuality. So those also Buddha consider as the kind of the extremes, and he abandoned them. And then he is introducing Majjhima Patipada. So that is, as you said, it is not just both sum together and divide by 2. That is not the Majjhima Patipada. So Majjhima Patipada, so there Buddha mentioned as the Noble Eightfold Path. And again, in that Haccanagotta Sutta, he emphasized as the causality, or we can say as the dependent co-arising. So the two extremes in the Haccanagotta Buddha mentioned are more subtle, talking about the duality, talking about available and not available, is and not, is not the good or bad. So this kind of dualistic thinking is something that Buddha mentioned as the two extremes, and abandoning those, or another valid explanation is existing and not existing. And there are things existing and there are things not existing. So even in that argument, one can get into a kind of a extreme One is telling, okay, exist. Another say, no, not exist. Or our mind also say exist or not exist. So our minds are jumping from this extreme to the other extreme. So without getting to any of these extremes, okay, now Buddha talks the Majjhima Patipada Tathagatena Abhisambuddha, where Buddha mentioned, okay, there is the, without taking any of these extremes, okay, now I am talking kind of a discipline. So that is where if this arises or if this available, that also going to be available. When this arising, that also is arising. If this is not available, that not going to be available. With the cessation of this, that also going to be ceased. So that is the very core of the Paticcasamuppada, where kind of a conditionality is shown, where when ignorance exists, or then the formations going to exist. When formations are there, then the established consciousness is going to available. When established consciousness is there, it will be established in the name and form. So likewise, that conditioned phenomena Buddha is explaining. Similarly, if there is no ignorance, then there can't be the formations. So likewise, the other side is also mentioned. So as you said, so I think the Majjhima Patipada therefore has a more say deep meaning, and as you said, it is the central teaching of the Buddha, we can say. Yes.
Thank you very much. I have another question. Do I have time to
Sure,
ask
sure.
it?
Yes, yes. Yeah.
So the second question is also the way you explain so clearly about how all this Sila Sikka, Samadhi Sikka, Panna Sikka, all of them are looking at the mundane and supra-mundane aspect. I have also been reflecting about this before, but I think you made it much more insightful for me, and I just want to know whether what I'm thinking is right, Dante. So what it is that when you look at, if you were explaining Samavayama, in particular when we are looking at the 37 factors of the Bodhipakkha Dhamma, and we take the four right efforts, the Samma Palapa, when we look at them, so we have this the Sangvara, the Pahana, the Bhavana, and the Adhipakatana. But you were also mentioning, and I have always, even before, many years ago, was noticed that though when we have not come to meditation, and when we at the beginning so bothered about giving dana and the sila part of it, before we actually started cultivating our mind, so really all those things are really propagating us in samsara, because we are always propagating another thought. But it's interesting when you look at this Sabbapa Passakarana Kusalapa, that kind of whole saying, that the accent is all in, don't do any other unwholesome things. So if it has a reason, quickly get rid of it, or and arise wholesome things with another. So it's always more about abandoning fetters or the influxes, and it's about, even if you look at the way you explain Samma Ditti as well as Samma Sankappa, the two wisdom factors, it was about the non-grasping nature in the supramundane levels, about the Samma Ditti, and also in the Samma Sankappa, it was all about the, what you think. It's all about those Nikkam Sankappa, Avihimsa, Abhyapada. It's all about, the letting go of it. So really, but those days we were thinking of, like, but I don't want to mention name, but in some countries, this collecting merit, which is all about accumulation. But the real teaching, when it comes to from mundane to supramundane, is actually the letting go. It is about the non-grasping. So, and in your talk, that is what it. When you look at all these, the Sila Samadhi Panna, and when you look at it, how it becomes from mundane to supramundane is actually when you. It is a letting go. It is influxes or fetters or things, and that is what adhering and but otherwise we are sort of adhering, claiming, possessing. That's what we are doing. But this is just the opposite of it. And I think that is when we bring those into bhavana, into our minds, in Indriya Bhavana, or any of these things, the Sankata thing and the Olarika, and you break it down to Patisampana at the end of it. And that you, then only that automatically like dissolving without using the will to say, oh, my mind is here, my mind is there. No, I must give this up. That is still will. But in this process, when we keep on repeating, that anicca component comes in, which then will go to the dukkha and the anatta. But it's a process of wisdom which comes by insight, by just letting go, rather than willfully realizing something is here, no, I must give it up and I must do that, which is much more like Vansaka Dhamma. So today's talk for me, from you, really brought that out. Have I understood it correctly, Bhante?
Yeah, I think yes. And again, interestingly, now one sutta I referred is the Satipatthana Vibhanga Sutta, where Buddha emphasized 3 levels or 3 stages. The first stage is the establishment of the mindfulness, Satipatthana. The second stage is the Satipatthana Bhavana, where you are developing various insights. Samudaya Dhammanupassiva Kayasmin Vihirati, Vaya Dhammanupassiva Kayasmin Vihirati. So all these practicing part is what Buddha emphasized as the Satipatthana Bhavana. Interestingly, there is a third component, that is where Satipatthana Bhavana Gaminincha Patipada, that is nothing but the Noble Eightfold Path. So you can see, so the Noble Eightfold Path in a way comes to the picture in a very systematic manner. So one established mindfulness and now is developing various insights. Now interestingly, he finds the necessity, the validity of the Noble Eightfold Path so that he can further cultivate this abandoning process or the letting go process. Because he has experienced to some extent, say the non-grasping state of mind, but he can't maintain. Still, there are some lapses. There are still some components to be developed, even though momentarily, only for a short period, the non-grasping state of mind is available, but he can't maintain that. So there the need of the Noble Eightfold Path arises, and now he kind of has a valid reason. Yes, I need to further develop. I have to maintain the ethics. I need to maintain the morality. I need to maintain the collectedness of the mind, the clarity of the mind. Otherwise, I can't see the defilements. Yes, I further need to develop the wisdom. Then only the mind will be purified. So likewise, he fully understands the value, the need of the Noble Eightfold Path. So therefore, I feel by keeping these 3 components in a kind of a line, establishment of mindfulness as the Satipatthana, then the Satipatthana Bhavana as the second component, and the Satipatthana Bhavana Gaminincha Patipada, the Noble Eightfold Path as the third component, has a kind of a practical approach I see in the Satipatthana Vibhanga Sutta.
Thank you, Bhante.
Yeah.
Thank you for the questions. And there are 2 more questions. May I read them too?
Yes.
One from Ms. Samantha Jayatilaka. Does Bhante himself conduct retreats at the Nissarana Vanaya or in other areas? Is Kale Goda part of the center too? In English, do you conduct meditation retreats in English, please?
Yeah, actually, Bhante Dhammajiva, myself, and Venerable Dhammakusala, so likewise several us are conducting at Nissarana Vanaya. And yes, as you mentioned, I am conducting an English retreat at Kalalgoda. It is not Kehel Badgoda. It is Kalalgoda, which is closer to Talawatugoda. It's an English retreat, 3 days, once a month. I am conducting there. So all these information, the retreats conducted throughout the year are available in our website. And all the, question and answers and the Dhamma sermons during the retreats are also available in the website.
So that means that even though they are face-to-face live programs, we who may not be available in Sri Lanka at that time can listen to the recording on the website.
Of course, yes. Of course, they are all available in the Nissarana website. So if you need, I can put simply the website name. You can you can go to Dhamma Talks, and then you can refer them. I'll try to put the link there.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
There's still another question. Is it all right, Bhante?
Yes, fine, yes.
Respected Bhante, with permission, simply put karma in. Karma is generated through intention. An arahant still does things with an intention. Otherwise, there would be zero activity. In both cases, we use the same word, intention. Of course, there is a difference. Can you explain the difference, please, Bhante?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. I think now, even though we as non-arahants, okay, when we are talking, when we are doing, when we are, say, using our bodily activities, so even though we are using the intention, it may have a shade of the unwholesome states. Okay, my intention may have a component coming from the desire, coming from the craving, coming from the ignorance. So the intention is somewhat colored or conditioned by various unwholesome states, various, say, unwholesome roots, lust, hatred and delusion. So likewise, even though the intention is available in the, say, in the mundane person, it is fairly colored, conditioned by the defilements. But on the other hand, if we consider arahant, so his intention may not be colored by these defilements, or his action is fairly undefiled and based on the purity of the mind. So therefore, there may be still intention, I feel, so it is not colored or conditioned or defiled through various these unwholesome states. And again, so he may still use the typical names, typical conventions, typical languages. He still may use just for the communication, but internally he is maintaining a thorough understanding, a fair amount of wisdom, so that he is not grasping any of these.
Thank you, Bhante. There aren't any more questions. I think there are two messages. I think one is from Bhante himself. And the other thing is, I think all of you can copy. And Mr. Jayanta Vikramarajji is asking, thanking Bhante. Thank you, Bhante. Is it possible to have a recording of today's talk, please?
Yeah, I think Bhante has... He has explained that this is going to be available in the website and the International Buddhist Foundation website, as well as I will post this into the Nissarana website as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I saw the message. Thank you.
Right.
Any other questions? I think we have time for just another question or two.
Bhante, can you let us know what are the, internationally, I know that there are talks sponsored by the Buddhist Forum in Australia and other places, but unfortunately, Samatha gave me the website for these two talks and tomorrow's talk of Dr. Sumana. But is there anywhere where we can have talks in English or discussions or retreats as they're having live, so we have opportunities of asking questions, which are available on a website so that we can listen from different countries in the world?
Yeah, actually I conduct few sessions in English. Actually on every Wednesday I am conducting a Sutta teaching session. In Sri Lanka time it is only at early 7 a.m. So it may not be, if you are connecting from UK, it is difficult for you. On the other hand, I am conducting a mindfulness for young adults session. That is in Sri Lanka time, is 1:30 on every Sunday. But we are having a little vacation till 8th. We are going to start the next year from 8th January. From 8th January onwards, probably you can join with that. So that is also a very interesting program. We start with half an hour walking session, and then half an hour guided sitting session, and then half an hour Dhamma sermon, and then another half an hour question and answer session. So there are some participants from UK. That is on every Sunday starting from 8th of January every Sunday at 1:30 p.m. Sri Lanka time.
1:30 p.m. Sri Lanka time.
Yes, yes.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bhante. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Bhante, can I ask a question, please?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Well, two questions. One is regarding meditation retreat at Nissarana. Because of the climbing that one has to do at Nissarana, it's almost impossible for me to attend a retreat there.
No, actually, there is no climbing needed. I mean, if you are in Sri Lanka, you can participate. It is conducted at the retreat center, and it's just it's a kind of a hall available, and so I mean, it is not in the upper monastery. It's the center is available in the lower monastery, where you can simply come by your vehicle, and it's a matter of going to the retreat center.
And that's for a 7 or 10 day retreat is possible without climbing.
Yeah. Without climbing, what you refer?
Climbing is climbing the steps and going up and down for walking meditation and things.
No, actually you can.
I remember there was quite a climb.
No, actually you can simply come to the meditation center. If it is difficult for you to climb, you can maintain yourself only in the same story, and you can use the passage or corridor to walk, and you don't need to use staircase.
And there are no 7 day or 10 day retreats at Kalalgoda.
Kalalgoda only have 3 days actually in English medium, and there is a Sinhala medium retreat also, but it is driven with the recordings. There are some actually 2-3 day retreats are there in Kalalgoda.
Thank you very much. One last question I asked about the Bojjhanga Sutta and Arahants.
Right.
And I have wondered why it was that Buddha preached Girimananda, or Venerable Ananda to preach Girimananda Sutta to
Girimananda, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, Girimananda, and
right.
why these Arahants who have already developed the Bojjhanga were given Bojjhanga but not Girimananda, Venerable Girimananda.
Correct.
Why is that?
Yeah, I think now both are very interesting areas. So particularly emphasizing the Vipassana, particularly emphasizing the releasing of the mind. The Bojjhangas, the full culmination of the Bojjhangas also release the mind. Complete detachment, complete unconditioned, taking ones to the unconditioned. Similarly in the Virimananda Sutta also, all the things that Buddha emphasize are very kind of interesting areas in the insights, the Vipassana practice. So I can see two recipes. So to the Venerable Girimananda, so one recipe worked. So that is more into Vipassana techniques and all these things, and ultimately talking about the Anapanasati as a practical way of implementing that. After hearing that, so he recovered. And Venerable Mahakassapa and Mahamoggallana and Buddha himself, so for them actually the Bojjhangas, so that helped them. So I feel they are kind of two recipes, but more emphasis is given for the Vipassana or to the insights knowledge or having the unattached mind.
Sorry.
So for Girimananda, it was more for the relief of his pain and suffering, whereas for the others who had already attained, it was just like a revision of the Bojjhanga when they were in pain.
Yeah, that is also true. But again, there are some sort of arguments that Venerable Girimananda himself is an Arahant. When he was hearing these Girimananda Sutta, so we can't particularly say that he is not an Arahant when he was hearing the Girimananda Sutta. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think we have time only to one little question now.
Can I just ask a very quick thing following from what Ilanga asked? Now, I know these were told to Arahant Bhante because their body was weakened and therefore even as the mind was weakened, but they had already attained arahantship, so therefore it was strengthening their mind by going through all of that, the kind of, the passaddhi, that kind of calming thing. Now, I don't know, but when I go to Sri Lanka, I bring these tapes of the Bojjangas and Girimanandas, and because I have heard, whenever there is sickness, I play these. Now, we have not attained those, but we know the 10 contemplations, we know the Bojjanga. Is there any benefit by listening to this those, because just theoretically we know, but we haven't experientially gone through these states of mind? Is there any benefit in that, or are we just doing that because somebody has said something?
Yeah, there may be a benefit, of course, because it is a Dhamma we are hearing and some powerful Dhamma we are hearing. There may be a kind of a benefit, but as you know, since we ourselves are not Arahants, so probably we may not get the benefit to the full level, to the full comprehensive level, because not developed to the utmost level.
So in that case, listening to even
any sutta, yes, any paritta, any protective chanting, any Buddha's teaching has kind of a effect. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and our time is now limited. Just to let me read the last question from Ms. Samantha Jayatilaga. Bhante, is present moment awareness emphasized as that's the only time one has control to act with wisdom in a wholesome way? Is that clear, Bhante? Is readable on the WhatsApp.
This present moment awareness emphasized as that is the only time one has control to act with wisdom in a wholesome way. Actually, we can say like this. Now, when are we going to act? Okay, if we are mindful, so at that time we have a kind of a choice. Okay, suppose someone is someone is blaming me. Okay, I am fully aware. Okay, at that given moment, okay, I have a kind of a choice. Okay, am I going to react? Am I going to blame back? Or am I going to simply be silent? So in that sense, I can say, if I am maintaining mindfulness throughout, so at that given moment also I am mindful, and I have a kind of a choice. I have a better opportunity to operate properly.
So with that, Bhante, may I invite Bhante to give us the finalizing, concluding greetings. And thanks a lot to Bhante as well as the participants for this wonderful and very informative session. I think Bhante Sumanajyoti may have something to say too, but may I invite Bhante to conclude the session with greetings, and then Venerable Sumanajyoti has some more words. Thank you.
Yeah. Actually, I like to thank Bhante Sumanajyoti for offering me this opportunity, and Dr. Sumana also for doing this wonderful session, coordinating the whole thing. And again, previous 3 occasions was done by another lady doctor, and I like to thank her as well. And again to all the participants. And again, interesting point here is that we have discussed some practical aspects of the Buddha's teaching, and mere listening is not enough. So we all have to practice by ourselves. So that is the only way that we can realize these things. So as we know, there are 3 areas to each and every truth. The first area is the theoretical component, second area is the practical component, and the third area is the kind of a realization. So therefore we all understand this. There is some theoretical aspect. There is something that we need to practically involve, practically implement. That is very, very important. And as a result of that practice, there is the possibility of realization. So with that, I like to hand over to Bhante Sumanajyoti.
Thank you, Bhante. Thank you very much, everyone, for being with us throughout this entire Dhamma series. My special thanks to Venerable Panadure Chandaratana, as well as Dr. Dayagamhevage, Dr. Sumana Ratnayaka, and Dr. Samantha and Mr. Samitha and all the participants. Also, I appreciate the help of IBF committee, and I'm grateful for all your support to make this event a success. May you all be deeply well and happy. Let me know one day if you have any time to give this kind of precious Dhamma talk. I kindly invite to you for that opportunity. So finally, can I say like this? Samina katam punyang, mayang databang, maya katam punyang, samina anumoditabang, sadhu sadhu anumodami.
Sadhu sadhu sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.